What's good, brothers and sisters? This is going to be another recording of a recording. All right.
What's good, brothers and sisters? How y'all doing today? Many of y'all know who I am, right? Many of y'all don't. So I'm going to give you a quick background. All right. I had a YouTube channel and a Facebook, and both of them were terminated for speaking truths such as this. This is going to be the most rawest truth that you ever heard, right? I'm going to teach you a little bit about scriptures, about freedoms. We're going to go into the Constitution. We're going to go into the difference between rights and liberties and privileges. We're going to do the difference between lawful and legal also, all right? So I thought it'd be cool to go through the history of America real quick, the legitimate history that wasn't taught to us in school, all right? So America, there was Native Americans living on this land, right? The Indians, the Redskins, right? They still got the reservations out here. We all know about the Indians, right? So a long time ago, a few hundred years ago, there was what we call the Pilgrims. They were Christians who were fleeing religious persecution, right? Now, we don't really go into the type of persecution that they were facing in school. What it was, there was a government, kind of like a federal government, all right? And they were trying to govern over the Christians. They were trying to make the Christians bow down to the rulers of the darkness of this world. Instead of bowing down to God, they were trying to make them pay taxes. They were trying to make them follow all these rules and regulations, right? And they got tired of the Masonic government and man's rules, right? They wanted to live freely, so they came to America. Not long after the Pilgrims, we had the Amish who did the same thing. They fled religious persecution. They wanted to establish the kingdom of heaven, right? So they came to America. Now, when America was first created, it was created by a covenant, right? The Pilgrims made a covenant. And you can look that up. The original constitutions for America were Christian. They talked about Jesus and God and obeying God's laws, right? And now, so let's go over the difference between lawful and legal real quick. This is the easiest way to explain it. Legitimate law is God's. Man cannot create law. Man has no authority at all. No man can give another man authority to create a law. It just can't happen. What we've got, when you get pulled over on the road, you're getting pulled over and them little taxes and fines that they give you, they're giving you code violations, corporate code violations, commerce codes violations, etc., right? That's commerce. That's a code violation or a statute. A statute comes from a corporation, so it's a corporate rule, right? They assume that you're a corporation. They assume that you're the legal person, and we'll get into that a little bit later too, probably, when we talk about the mark of the beast. But right now, if you go to court, unless you actually harm somebody, like let's say that you killed somebody, you obviously broke a law. That's murder. Thou shalt not kill, right? So that's an actual law. But let's say that you go to court for drug possession, all right? Now, if it's just pot, God created every tree that bears seed for our enjoyment, right? We have dominion over the trees and over the earth, so that's not an actual law. But let's say that you had something like meth on you or something like that, or crack or something. That's hard. When you take those type of drugs, you're harming your temple. You are the holy temple. That's what Jesus said, that we're the church and we're the temple, right? We're the temple of God. So that's how you could have been breaking the law right there. But they're not charging you with defiling God's holy temple, are they? No, they're charging you. And notice the word charge, right? They're doing this for profit. You're not breaking the law, you're breaking statutes. That's why you're being charged instead of tried, right? So the First Amendment says that the government can't create a law in regards to a church, an establishment of a church, right? It says cannot create a law respecting a church establishment. Well, if you look up the definition of the word respecting, a lot of people think that they can't make any. A lot of people assume, because people are so indoctrinated, that the word respecting, they're thinking that it means that they can't create a law that is for a church. They can't create a law that's pro-church, right? Like with respect to a church. But respect is in the dictionary defined as in regards to, right? So they can't make any law in regards of a church. And Jesus said that we are the church, right? So literally Congress cannot create any laws in regards to us. If you look up what the legal definition of the church is, it'll tell you that it's the body, the members of the body of the church. It has its own government. It'll mention the church government in there, and it'll refer you to other words such as court, Christian, etc. Right? So if a church is correctly established, it'll have, first of all, you got to know that whether a church has a 501c3 license or not, no church property is taxable, whether it's a licensed church or not, right? And if you look into Supreme Court cases, they admit in the Supreme Court cases that no state can abolish someone's rights or liberties. And it also says that no state has the power to turn a liberty or a right into a privilege and create a license and charge a fee thereof, right? So you don't need a license to create a church. So let's say that a church is established correctly on unincorporated land, right? All the property that belongs to the church is untaxable. And if you look at our God-given rights in Genesis 1:26 through 29, is the first mention of our God-given rights. It says we're given dominion over the land. It also says the dominion over water and animals and etc. But land is what is important, right? First of all, we all have the God-given unalienable right to find some unoccupied land and start a farm, raise a family, right? The government's really not allowed to own property, but somehow they've got everyone indoctrinated into the belief that the government owns everything, and you can't do anything without the government's permission, and you can't live on any land without paying the government taxes, etc. It's really twisted the way that we're living. We're living in a satanic system that's 100% against God, right? In school, they teach us that God didn't create the earth. They teach us the exact opposite of what the Bible tells us, right? Monkeys, evolution, all that nonsense. And they do so that you don't want to check the book and find out that you have God-given unalienable rights. They don't want you to figure out how messed up the system is. For example, if you look at Matthew 25:31 through 46, you'll see what qualifies you as a sheep. When you go and visit people in prison, when you go and feed the homeless, when you take care of people, right? And they've got laws, not real laws, they've got legal codes set up to where it's illegal to collect rainwater. It's illegal to feed the homeless people. And you can look up, people have been getting arrested for simply feeding the homeless people. It's actually illegal to be homeless. We live in a crazy world that's getting crazier every day, brothers and sisters, and it's nothing can save this world besides the truth. The truth is what sets us free. And where does that come from? That quote literally comes from the Bible, right? So where do you think the truth is? I'll tell you what, if you look in the law dictionary and you look up church and religion and court, Christian, and etc., one of the definitions, I think it's the definition of church. It literally admits that Jesus teaches the truth, right? There's a lot of people out there that try to say that Jesus never existed. There's no question of his existence. We have plenty of proof. We got the bloody shroud. We've got the Romans criminal record. We've got the Jewish criminal record, the two people that crucified him. They both have a criminal record of him, and they admit in the criminal record that his sentence was crucifixion. The only question is, was he the Son of God? And we're not going to get into that. I want to talk to you about how everyone's trying to charge for information, right? They claim that they've got the keys and the truth that'll set you free if you just pay them $200 or $1,500 for some classes or whatever. and none of them have anything figured out. They might have figured out how to set off and discharge some debts or send some debt validation letters to get rid of some loans that someone sold to a third party collection agency, right? Obviously, you don't have no contract with the collection agency, so they can't validate the debt. Whoop-de-whoop, you know? But here's the truth. When a lot of these people, they'll admit that the birth certificate, they'll tell you about the ships and the birth certificates of a ship and etc. And they'll tell you, they might go as far as to tell you the truth about the Sestuo K'Vi Trust in 1666 that was created by a pope. They might tell you that the Pope claims, or the Vatican claims, ownership of every Sestuo K'Vi Trust in the world, right? And that everyone is assumed or presumed to be dead and lost at sea because of this. And that's how, since birth, that birth certificate is like a lien against your rights. That's why you hear about unalienable rights, you think it's unalienable rights. No, it's unalienable rights, and I like to use the word non-lienable, right? Because God-given rights are supposed to be non-lienable. You're not supposed to be able to put a lien on someone's rights like that. But that's pretty much what they've got going on. So there's a lot of people out there that'll tell you pieces of the truth, and then they'll give you a lot of, they'll lead you in the wrong direction. They'll tell you that contract, the birth certificate, is fraud ab initio. It's null and void, and due to being fraud ab initio from the very beginning, right? Then they'll tell you to go ahead and authenticate that birth certificate and to fill out a UCC 1-308 and etc., right? You know, if you look up the definition of the word authenticate, and then you think about the fact that contract is null and void due to being fraud ab initio, you got to ask yourself, why would you authenticate a fraudulent contract? If you look up canon law, I think it's 2124 and 2127. Don't quote that 100%. That's just off the top of my head. I think it's 2124 and 2127. In canon law, it says that once a man claims life, that he may either dissolve the trust or he can switch places with the trust, and instead of being the trustee, he could be the beneficiary, or etc., right? I don't recommend using that trust at all. I do not recommend that. What I recommend doing is claiming life and dissolving the trust. But you got to ask yourself, how can you claim life and prove life? A lot of people will tell you about the postmaster method, and they'll tell you about blood thumbprints instead of signatures, and they'll tell you all these different methods. But let me tell you something. Since we're going off of God's laws, so the only way to claim life is to become reborn as a new man. Y'all get it? To claim life and have the Sestuo K'Vi Trust, or the Seta K'Vi, however you want to pronounce it. If you want to dissolve it and claim life, you have to become reborn and be baptized. A lot of people don't know. They know that it's the Sestuo K'Vi Trust, but they don't know what kind of a trust the Sestuo K'Vi is. The Sestuo K'Vi Trust is an ecclesiastical trust. Okay? It's ecclesiastical in nature. So, when you get baptized, you get a certificate of baptism. That certificate of baptism is a new trust. A lot of people don't know this, but because the Catholics, they baptize babies when they're first born, right? The Anabaptists is the people that get baptized later in life, like Jesus. He was baptized later in life before he started preaching, right before he started preaching. And so if you get baptized, you get that certificate of baptism. That's proof of life, of you being reborn, not birthed, but reborn. Y'all get it? Now, if you were to check Revelation 13, 16 through 18, you'd find where they talk about the mark of the beast. Now, a lot of Jesus' teachings is written in parables, so you got to learn context and definitions of words, and to really dig deeper, you need to check into the original languages that they was written in. A lot of people say to check Greek for the New Testament for whatever reasons, But I like going all the way back to the Hebrew and then even further to the Paleo-Hebrew pictograph. That's like the hieroglyphs, kind of. It's kind of similar to hieroglyphs, but it's not really. For example, in thy right hand, in Paleo-Hebrew pictograph, it's just the yod. And the yod is just a bent arm, right? And it resembles thy works. So when they say the mark in thy right hand or in thy forehead, they're talking about thy works. And the forehead is talking about thy mind or memory, right? But if you wanted to do a new literal translation and you wanted to talk about the right arm or the forehead is the front of the face, right? The front head, right? So your face and your right hand, let's say you go to jail or you get locked up. What do? They take a print of your right hand, whole hand print, and they take a picture of your face, your forehead, right? When you're born, they take footprints and handprints, and they give you a name, all capital name, etc. And that's the name. It says the mark of the beast is the name of a man and the number of a man that no man can buy nor sell without. Somehow people keep using the 16th verse and the last 3 words of the 18th verse, and they're creating this big fake story about some one single antichrist that's gonna come over and take over the world like Hitler, except for 10 times worse. And he's gonna enforce the mark of the beast. And people are trying to say that it's a chip and all this other stuff. Look, all the end time signs is here. Everybody knows that the return of Jesus could be literally any day. It could be within the next year. It could be within the next 5 years. There's no end time signs that haven't came yet, but people can't realize the fact that the mark of the beast has already came and gone. You know? So yeah, the legal person is the mark of the beast for a fact. Tristan, you're a douche, bro. Commenting all that negative stuff. Jesus said that the Antichrist is a spirit that dwells within many men, millions of people. If you're not pro-Christ, you're anti-Christ. There's no such thing as a single antichrist. The beast is a system of government, right? Let me break something down to you. If you check into the 1893 Encyclopedia Britannica and you look at the word legal code, it's defined as the undoing of God's law, literally. The undoing of God's law, legal code, right? So to break free from this system, let me tell you the only solution to all the wars, the poverty, which is created by a fake system, a fraudulent system of money, which is printed out of trees and cotton, right? Money is not real. It doesn't exist. It's like a figment of your imagination. There's no difference between the money in your wallet and the money in your kid's Monopoly game. It's both made out of paper, right? The only way to stop all the wars is to stop the poverty, the people starving to death and the hunger, and solve all these problems is to literally go back to God's laws, right? If you want to make America great again, you gotta go back to Christianity, because America was founded on God's laws and Christianity, right? And you gotta stop using money, stop letting the governments raise your children, stop letting them indoctrinate your children. They've got this slave system set up to where the parents, you ever heard that it takes a village to raise a child? Well, we're letting the government raise our children, right? And the way that they got it set up to where we have to let the government raise our children is because they've got the monetary system set up to where anyone that's not born into the so-called elite is forced to work to survive, right? Every single day. If we didn't have to use money, all we would have to do is build us a house and a little barn and have a farm going on, right? And yeah, there's work to do on a farm, but there's not 8 hours every single day, 6 days a week of work to do. You know what I'm saying? You would have time to raise your children if you wasn't stuck in the slave system. But yeah, everybody knows that there's not much time left to do something. So if we're gonna do something, to be prepared to stop all the nonsense, what we gotta do is we gotta go back to God's laws and living by the scripture. We gotta turn Earth back into the Garden of Eden. We gotta turn every community into like a farm community, right? We got all these neighborhoods, but no neighbors. Where's the love for that neighbor, you know? But yeah, I'm just making y'all think. One love, peace, and fortitude.
So there you go, brothers and sisters. That's the end of the video. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope y'all learned something. Hope y'all took